Coming up on the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast, the new terminal at Indianapolis International Airport turns 10. A startup water testing tech company continues to grow. FC Tucker marks 100 years in business. The Metropolitan School District of Decatur Township looks to get innovative. We talk to Butler University's athletics director ahead of basketball season. And our panel of insiders looks at the week's top stories. Welcome to the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast. I'm Andy Ober. The new terminal at Indianapolis International Airport turns 10 this week. The facility supports more than 22,000 jobs and has a $5.4 billion economic impact. Indianapolis Airport Authority Executive Director Mario Rodriguez joined Inside Indiana Business host Gary Dick to talk about the anniversary and what's next.
Hard to believe, 10 years, a decade since the opening of the airport. Seems like it's still a new airport. Interesting, though, as I mentioned, first airport in the country to open up, be designed and open up after 9/11. So that's had an impact on the design and the functionality of the airport.
Oh,
right?
huge impact. Yeah. It's made getting through the airport comfortable. So it was designed to be comfortable. It wasn't sort of slapped together after 9/11 like a lot of places have been. And that really gave us the platform to continue to build and give you more and more comforts as a customer. So it's a fabulous design and it's been working very well.
You go back to the old Indianapolis International Airport. Certainly it served needs of the community, but to think back, a very different, front door to the community, and it really didn't give that positive vibe you want.
Absolutely. If you think about it, a great city and a great region deserves a great entrance. It has a great entrance with this airport, and we continue to make it better. 10 years ago, the airport didn't have Wi-Fi. Now, arguably, it has the fastest Wi-Fi in any airport in the United States. The amenities keep growing and growing because we're able to do that with that terminal. Yeah. If we had the old terminal, we'd probably be hard pressed to provide the highest level of customer service that we can.
Yeah, as I mentioned, the awards, numerous awards kind of keep coming. North America's best airport, multiple consecutive years in a row. What's behind that? Why is Indianapolis so highly regarded in your view?
The people. The people are really dedicated to making sure that your travel experience is positive, and that's what we actually deliver. We deliver public value. We're a public entity, so we deliver value to you, to your customers, to your business associates, to your families. We want to make sure that everybody is very well treated going through the terminal and gets the maximum amount of customer service that we could deliver.
Let's talk about that impact on the business community in particular, but nonstop flights for decades, for a long time was a huge negative, an issue for the business community. Now at more than 50 at a record all-time high. Talk about that.
Yeah, now we've got more nonstops than ever before. And as a matter of fact, it's a combination of the quantity and quality. Yeah. There was an MIT study just done recently that said of mid-sized airports, we're one of the best connected. Better connected than New Orleans because of quality, because we've saturated where businesses want to go. And we've taken a very thoughtful approach because business wanted to go to California and to the West Coast. We've saturated the West Coast. We had one trip before. Now we've got multiple trips going into major cities on the West Coast. That solidifies our tech industry here. Yeah. We're in Europe right now. We're looking down south to Mexico. We've got Canada, we've got the Caribbean. So we're actually focusing in on what business wants. And actually, we're not leaving leisure travel out of it. We're looking at that also.
So look ahead. Big initiatives underway now. I know you talk about more nonstop flights, the concession area. I know you want to really improve as part of kind of that overall sense of place you want to create out there.
Well, our main focus, obviously the concessions have come to fruition. It's been 10 years and it's hard to look at a terminal that looks so beautiful and say it's 10 years old, but the concession contracts have come to fruition. That was a decade ago, people thought differently. What our greatest hope, and we're continuing to focus in on, is that we maximize the amount of economic impact of the terminal. And in doing that, we're trying to bring on board more local, sourcing locally. And that actually gives us two things. The economic impact stays local, it doesn't get exported. And we have a sense of place because we have wonderful restaurants and wonderful products. So that, that greets our customers that come in and out of the terminal.
All right, Mario Rodriguez, Indianapolis International Airport celebrating 10 years. Mario, it was always great to see you. Thanks.
Great to see you.
All right.
Still to come, FC Tucker marks a major milestone, and Fiat Chrysler brings health and wellness in-house. But first, since 120 Water Audit won Indy's Rise of the Rest competition, a lot has happened to the young startup. It's raised millions in funding and has more than doubled the size of its team. Co-founder and CEO Megan Glover came in studio with an update on the company's growth.
You and I were talking on how 120 Water Audit got started, and as you said it was one of those kind of accidental entrepreneurial situations.
Absolutely. Yeah, it really started over a cup of coffee, to be completely honest with you, and a simple question. Megan, you have 2 young kids. Do you know what's in your water?
Wow. And from there, you started, you're a marketer, been with a number of software companies. You started doing some research, came up with the idea. So give us the model, give us the technology and the innovation behind 120 Water Audit.
Yeah, absolutely. So our first product was a simple consumer kit, which is backed by enterprise logistics technology. That wound up in the hands of some public water systems and expressed some interest in school districts. And as we were working with those clients, my background being in software and data management really saw this need, the fact they had no modern tools to help them execute these programs. So we prototyped a compliance management software that the state of Indiana purchased, and from there we've been closing business ever since.
And you talk about closing business, you're now in multiple states.
Absolutely.
And again, you're talking about schools, municipalities are some of the biggest customers.
Yes, government agencies, public water systems, and school districts are our primary selling target right now.
You've had a lot happen to you and your company over the course of the past year. Steve Case and the Rise of the Rest, the AOL co-founder, who has this tour. He goes around the country. The premise is basically there's a lot happening in the middle part of the country. You won that pitch competition.
Yeah, it was really cool.
What's been the fallout, the impact really of winning that?
Yeah, I mean, so many impacts. I mean, first and foremost, our round of funding was absolutely accelerated. We've been introduced to LPs and venture folks across the U.S. And then, their thesis of big businesses can build and grow outside the coasts, and they do everything that they can to support that mission. And so we've benefited from a lot of that.
And you think, I know I've read in some of the research, you feel that Indianapolis and Indiana is a great place to grow a technology company.
I do. I mean, I've been in the tech scene for the last 15 years, and I've never had a reason to leave. And, we intend to grow our business and build our business here, and there's no reason to leave.
$2 million round of funding. You've essentially tripled employment to up over 20. Talk about growth plans and where you see. Growth plans. So we're really at the precipice of this market. We'll grow about 300% year over year. We believe that that's just the starting point. So with growth, we'll be looking for a new home. We'll be at least doubling in staff next year, hopefully, and then looking for a growth round of funding. All the while, just continue to accelerate on our product features and offerings. California Sunday Magazine did a big feature, but I got to ask you, you and a very small group of entrepreneurs had a chance to meet with the Obamas. Yes. What was that like?
Surreal, yeah, starstruck. So it was wonderful. It was a conversation. He was so thoughtful with his time, and what an incredible honor.
And in addition to that, the connections to venture capitalists around the country, those connections, those experiences are really important, especially for a young business.
Yeah, very much so. And especially when, we have a thesis portfolio that doesn't really fit a lot of the molds. Blended margin, environmental compliance. And so it's so important that we meet folks that kind of invest in those things as well.
All right, 120 Water Audit, based currently in Zionsville, growing, getting national attention. Megan Glover, thanks so much, and we look forward to having you on again soon.
Yeah, wonderful.
Later in the podcast, a Kokomo company doubles down on employee health and a new innovation hub in Decatur Township. But now, FC Tucker is celebrating 100 years this month. Owner and Chief Executive Officer Jim Litton has been with the organization for 46 of those years. He joined us to talk about the milestone and future for the Indianapolis-based real estate company.
The Tucker name certainly in the real estate marketplace is iconic in Indiana. And as you think back to those and through those 100 years, residential real estate starting in 1918, got into commercial real estate. So many things we could talk about, but as we were talking off camera, the Tucker family, the imprint that they've had on downtown Indianapolis and that remake of Indianapolis is substantial.
Absolutely. Bud Tucker was the founder's son. And Bud joined the firm in 1957 with 3 partners, Joe Bowman, John Wallace, and Bob Houck. Those 4 gentlemen had the vision of a different Indianapolis. And they formed coalitions with people. Like, for example, when the first hotel to be built in Indianapolis in a long, long time was when the Hilton was opened on the Circle in 1969. Bud and his partners were instrumental in putting the ground deal together where the Regions Bank building sits now. Bud and his partners and a group of outside investors helped build the old Market Square Arena. And so they were involved. They really cared about the community.
Yeah. And as you look at the marketplace and in the 45 years that you've been with the company, and as you look at residential real estate, what's been the biggest change? There's been a lot of change, but what's been the biggest change?
Well, I think number one, the consumer expectations changed because the consumer has so much more information now that they come to us and sort of try to navigate the process when really we should be the trusted advisor doing that. And it used to be, and part of that reason is with the internet and everything, and there's so much being on television about housing anymore. So people are so much more educated.
And as you said, technology is driving so much.
It really is.
Yeah. Let's talk about the current market.
Yes.
Getting a lot of attention. What do you see happening in Indianapolis and statewide? And then we'll also look ahead maybe to next year.
Well, I tell you, in my career, I've not seen anything like what we've experienced this last 2 years. And certainly a lot of that was brought on by the recession. And after the recession, there were so many people that had been on the sidelines that they all came off the bench, started buying homes, so it drove the inventory down. The Central Indiana market right now is on track for another record year. Last year was the biggest year they ever had. This year will be even bigger. And projections for next year is that it could even be 3% better. There's three measurements that I look at to predict the market. First one is interest rates. Interest rates last year were in the high threes, and this year they're going to be approaching, this coming year, probably high fours, low fives. The next thing is unemployment. And unemployment is 3.7%. And last is consumer confidence. So it's like three legs on a stool.
Yeah.
And all three of those are positive.
In a positive direction. So the future is looking bright.
Oh, yes. So bright we need to wear shades.
There you go. Jim Litton, the CEO at FC Tucker Company, celebrating 100 years. Jim, it's always great to see you. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Gary.
All right.
Remember, you can catch Inside Indiana Business Television on stations throughout the state every weekend. Head to InsideIndianaBusiness.com to check listings. Still to come, an Indiana school district unveils a new creative learning space, and Butler's athletics director is ready for basketball season. But first, Fiat Chrysler Automobiles, which has 5 manufacturing facilities in Howard and Tipton counties, is partnering with St. Vincent Health on a new health and wellness center. FCA says it's the first domestic automaker to offer a near-site employee clinic. St. Vincent Health, Wellness, and Preventative Care Institute Medical Director Michael Busk joined Kylie Valletta in the business of health.
We were just talking about this, 22,000 people. That's how many the FCA employees and their families, that's how many this clinic serves. It's been open about 3 months now. How did FCA and St. Vincent come to partner on this project?
Very important question. Sergio Marchioni, the former CEO and chairman of the board, said, I have control over every aspect of building an automobile instead of health. And I sent the CFO's office, the comptroller, and the head of benefits, Jim Godot from the CFO office, and Kathy Neal from the HR office, to go down to Kokomo and find a partner to help us by improving the health of our employees and lowering the spend. They met with Margie Johnson, who's the president of St. Vincent's Kokomo, and Margie Johnson said, we're with you, we're going to work with you, and we'd like you to visit our worksite clinic at Carmel Clay Schools so you can see our operation and we can scale this to the model for FCA.
And this model is growing, these near-site clinics. 2 key selling points. It saves money and it improves employees' health. So tell us how this model accomplishes those 2 things.
In our model, it's a person-centered home for healthcare. We have a one-stop shop for healthcare in which we have doctors, nurse practitioners, nurses, MAs, but we bring in the lifestyle aspect and the behavioral aspect because 40% of our deaths are due to behavior, lifestyle. 80% of our morbidity or chronic disease is associated with lifestyle. So we not only have all the medical to take care of the patient and their families, but we also have behavioral health clinic. We have healthcare navigation, which is critical, exercise physiologists, dietitians, radiology center, physical therapy, wellness directors, exercise classes, pharmacists for PharmDs, especially the PharmD works very strong on chronic disease management, and we're all focused on the patient.
And 40% of FCA employees prior to this clinic did not have a primary care physician. So they were visiting ERs and urgent care clinics instead. So this model also really focuses on personalized care.
Absolutely personalized care. We spend a lot of time in the recruitment process. We want high customer service, employees with great personality, because I am a scientist, but I'm going to tell you, it's the art of medicine, because we are helping people to improve their health and empower them to take care of their health. And more than anything else, what this does is increase access, easy access. In our first month, 750 people that came in the first month, 95% did not have a primary care doctor.
So as more employers want to adopt this model, is it becoming a big focus for St. Vincent, a new focus?
It is absolutely a big focus. I report directly to the CEO, Jonathan Nally, and I meet with the Chief Operating Officer, Cheryl Harmon, every 2 weeks on this project. It's an important project, and I would quote Jonathan Nally by saying, Dr. Busk, your goal is to improve the health of the company and lower their spend.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here and telling us more about this model.
Later in the podcast, Butler's athletics director talks basketball and facility upgrades, and our panel of insiders sounds off on the week's top stories. But now, the Metropolitan School District of Decatur Township in Indianapolis has opened its Innovation and Design Hub. The district calls the creative learning space the first of its kind, with tech including a programming lab and 3D printers. Director Brian Bulmer gave us details in our Eye on Education segment.
How did this idea, creative idea, how did it come about?
My understanding was this came about in a conversation between the district and Karen Jung was the mentioned name from Next Tech that said, hey, how about an innovation hub to really get kids excited about learning, develop a design thinking space, a think tank, if you will, for high school students and give them an opportunity to bring some of their creative learning and knowledge base into that space and really apply it to whatever some of their passions or future aspirations could be.
Yeah, unique space, unique design. Talk about the layout, what the experiences are that students actually get hands-on experience and what they experience when they go through it.
Oh, sure. So the Innovation Hub has several layouts. It's kind of designed from David Thornburg's 21st century learning spaces. So you take the watering hole, which is our kitchen area, which is really a collaborative space, kind of the walking or the talking at the water tank, if you will, to try to ignite some conversation. And we have a maker space, which could also be identified as the sand pit in David Thornburg's 21st century learning spaces for them to prototype, make things quickly, and really take some of their ideas and make something out of it. We have a fireside chat area, which is brainstorming. It's all whiteboard walls, opportunities for them to really write as much as they could possibly write on the walls themselves and put things down. We have a glass box, which is a really nice design from the standpoint of having a structured learning space from a teacher-directed instructional area, kind of outside of that zone. We have an area dedicated to computer science. We have MacBook integration in that space for multiple I would say programming formats like Swift, Python, Java, HTML, and then an audiovisual lab for them to truly create some podcast, vodcast, or something that could be maybe even LLC for them to brand themselves. So,
you think this in a way is the future of education?
I think it is, and I think it should be. I think it's the type of space that kids come into, and initially they're wowed, but it really is, I think, our modern day workspace. I think it's the type of space that kids come in and say, what can I do here? And my response is simply whatever you can imagine. You know, it's taking something formal that might be produced by a teacher, or them saying, hey, I just want to come in here and it's my proverbial sandbox.
And I know that an important element here is the connection to industry partners.
Right.
And I know industry partners have been very interested in this because this type of space leads to producing students for the kinds of jobs that they have out there. Right?
Absolutely. You know, when this was created, it truly, in my mind, is a liaison space to bring industry and students together to work on real world challenges, real industry challenges, things that are tangible for students to apply their learning, but also bring industry in to mentor, work alongside, or maybe even be a sounding board for students to work with. Yeah. So I feel like it's something that levels up students, gives them an opportunity to work with an industry mentor, and in my mind, level them up from, you know, in a variety of ways.
Yeah. Very cool, innovative space in Decatur Township, the new innovation hub there. Brian Bulmer is the director of the Innovation and Design Hub. Brian, thanks very much. We look forward to following the story.
Oh, thanks so much. Appreciate you having me on.
Still to come, perspective on the week's top stories from our latest panel of insiders. But first, Butler University is heading into basketball season with its largest season ticket base in history. The school has also announced the second phase of improvements to Hinkle Fieldhouse. Director of Athletics Barry Collier talked about it all with sports contributor Bill Benner.
Before I want to talk about the new stuff, I want to tell you, that's such a historic building, as we mentioned. But that last facelift, when you did the seating, how you retained the character of the place, but you made it for the modern fan.
Well, thank you. You know, it was one of our biggest goals was to keep what we had in terms of the Hinkle tradition and feel and all that was with the building that just breathes basketball as you experience that as a fan and as a competitor. So we were able to do that. There was quite a bit done. We've got a little bit more to go, and that's what we're working on now.
Well, and we're going to start. You were talking about the family court. You've got men's basketball, women's basketball. You got really demands on that space.
We do. We have limited amount of space per se. The two court areas, the main court of Hinkle and the Ephraimson family gym, is what we have to work with right now, and so we do need to upgrade the Ephraimson gym, which was not really done on the interior during the previous renovation, the one in 2014. And those two spaces are packed all the time. They're used excessively by our sports teams, but particularly those three teams, the two basketballs and volleyball. And
another upgrade will be the men's soccer team. You always had a strong soccer program there, and they didn't get upgraded last time.
Right, we basically ran out of ability to do the men's soccer locker room, which will get done this time. So air conditioning in the entire spaces of the main arena and the Ephraimson gym, the renovation of the Ephraimson gym and the floor and the lights and the windows and so forth to really bring that up to speed for recruiting purposes and for training purposes, obviously. And then the soccer locker room needs to be upgraded to fit the rest of our facilities.
We tend not to think of air conditioning because of basketball, but Hinkle, again, that's a year-round building, and I know for sure your graduation folks will appreciate
That's right.
That.
We've got one more graduation to get through before we would have that available to us. And you know what? Up to now, we have always said we have 1928 air conditioning, which is not open the window. But we really need to do this, and it'll make a big difference for everybody, and especially during that period of time when really from April, it can heat up here all the way through October sometime. Yeah. It just depends on the weather.
Hey, as we wrap up, let's talk hoops a little bit. Laval Jordan's second year. He's a fine young coach. Again, you just had Big East Media Day. They didn't think Butler was going to be that, but Butler always performs what they think was going to happen.
Well, we've gotten used to being picked lower than what we finished because that's what's happened the first 5 years of the Big East. So that doesn't really matter. What matters is who you have and what they do. And Laval is a great leader for us. Laval Jordan played at Butler and then graduated and coached at Butler and now is back as our head coach in his second year. So that's going to be a better situation, more familiarity, and maybe we can grow even better and bigger. We've got a lot of veteran players back on this team. Maybe more than most in the Big East. That'll help us as well. And if we can finish raising the money and do the job on the Ephraimson gym and the main arena that we want to do, it's going to help us sustain all that.
All right, Barry Collier, Butler Athletic Director. And we should mention real quick, season opener, Miami of Ohio on November 10th, and then a game that everybody has circled, IU and the Crossroads Classic, Bankers Life on December 15th. Right. Barry, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, Bill. And finally, our panel of insiders takes on the biggest business stories in the state. This week's panel includes education expert Robert Herzog, Bose Public Affairs Group Principal Roger Harvey, and Hathaway Strategies President Ann Hathaway.
And I'll start with you on one of the stories. Actually, it'll be in the week ahead. We'll hear about the 10th anniversary of Indianapolis International Airport. With first of all, it's hard for me to believe it's been 10 years. But the airport continues to look like a new airport and continues to rack up all these North American Airport of the Year awards over and over.
I don't think we get enough credit to the team out there, always looking ahead. And when we built the airport, it was going to be state of the art, but it continues to be state of the art, bringing in test projects. It is a great facility and a great team, making sure that we are on the map everywhere, internationally.
And Roger, the business impact. Sometimes I think it gets overlooked, but whether it's the nonstop flights to markets like San Francisco and Seattle, those types of things, but a real business impact as well.
Oh, that's exactly right. And they continue to add those flights and modify, bringing on additional, international flights. And the other thing that's interesting too, when the 10 years, it really is hard to believe it's been 10 years, but also the fact that remember how this airport came about. This was post 9/11, and this was the first significant airport, brand new airport that came online, and to see it being the testament that it is to aviation is really great for Indianapolis, but it's also great for air travel in general.
I think when we look back and we all sit here today and think about what the expectations were when it opened and what they are today, it's phenomenally, just far exceeded anything that I think everybody had at the time. So it's really a testament to everybody from, both mayors, administrations that started it, built it to today. It's in good shape.
Job creation, a part of something that fuels an airport, and certainly job creation in Indiana in general, but in particular in central Indiana continues this weekend. We saw a UK-based packaging company announcing plans for a $106 million facility in Lebanon in Boone County, plans to add upwards of 140 jobs over the next several years.
Great news for Central Indiana. The Central Indiana model continues to grow, continuing to recruit jobs to Indiana. Things are good in Indiana.
How about in terms of diversity of the workforce? Because obviously continue to be a manufacturing intensive state, the biggest manufacturing state in the country. But now you look at areas like defense, which increasingly is coming into focus. Terre Haute, the Terre Haute Chamber this week announcing an organization they've created to try to attract more of that kind of investment.
A real focus by the government to bring more jobs to Crane, to the Battery Innovation Center, to Terre Haute. That region continues to grow and to attract.
Roger, as you look at the possibility, life sciences, advanced manufacturing, distribution, logistics, IT gets all the attention, but defense, there are people who say there are a lot of assets here that can really be good for Indiana.
Sure, no, that's exactly right. I mean, Crane in particular, there is so much that goes on down there that people may not realize, and that investment continues to be made down there. And you see military operations, folks from across the country that come here to conduct exercises, and then that also ties into the technology aspect as they're looking to enhance various systems related to the defense industry.
Yeah, and a great example, this was announced this week as well, Columbus-based Cummins continues to boost its emphasis on electrified power, creating a partnership with the Battery Innovation Center down at the Westgate at Crane. Something like 1,000 Cummins employees are currently working on programs at the Battery Innovation Center.
Good example of pathways, right? The leadership of Cummins trying to find pathways for their employees and people within the Columbus area to ensure that they've got skills across, in their case, the kind of businesses that they're going to need to help and survive and for them to grow. So really good sign, and it's that kind of progressive leadership that I think Cummins has always exhibited that continues to grow.
The governor has estimated there are about 85,000 open jobs in the state. There's a national organization, Jobs for America's Graduates, that really focuses on work to get 16 to 24-year-olds employed. The governor is the national chair of the organization. He was out in D.C. this week at a program, talking about Indiana's role in this,
Right.
which is substantial.
Indiana is the largest JAG program in the country. I think 135 schools. We want to be at 250 in the next 2 years. Real opportunity to train employees and get them into the workforce. It's a really exciting, particularly with the number of jobs we're bringing to our state, to have this workforce ready to go.
And it ties in with the message, with the governor's office, and you look at Ivy Tech and others have said, it doesn't have to be a 4-year degree that you're looking to pursue. There's 2-year programs, there's other types of accreditation, and that helps provide diversity so that these folks can find what the sweet spot is for them and get them the right job, and then they can learn training on the job as well. But it keeps them here and it gets them in the right place where they're earning a paycheck.
Yeah. Also, news this week, you talk about jobs that maybe are falling out of favor or not as in demand. Attorneys and Valpo announcing this week they're dropping their law school, ending almost 140 years old. I mean, a fairly popular law school going out of business.
Yeah, I mean, it's a sign of the times in higher ed in the sense that we're going to be seeing a lot more, not only law schools, but other colleges and universities. It's already happened. We've seen a little bit of it here in Indiana, which is going to continue to unabated really going forward as there's kind of consolidation in higher ed. But, with law schools, significant debt. There's a much higher focus now than there ever was on student debt and attorneys. And I think it was a good move for Valpo. Unfortunately, in higher ed, we're not good about being able to find homes for something like that, and I would really hope that, they tried to work with a Tennessee school to have them take over, and it wasn't meant to be, but more of that to come, unfortunately.
Yeah. Another issue that certainly is plaguing the state of Indiana, many other states around the country too, and that's the opioid crisis. There was a report that came out, 2 reports from the Fairbanks Foundation this week talking about the toll that opioids and also tobacco have on the state of Indiana. And I don't know where to go with it, but we hear these numbers and they're kind of mind-boggling. $12.6 billion in economic impact tied to addictions, the number of deaths here. A lot of efforts are focused on getting the arms around it. Are we making any progress?
Not making enough progress fast enough. I really support a $2 tax increase on tobacco. I think that it will make a big difference in the healthcare costs as it relates to
Do you think that'll
state.
happen at the State House? Do you think? I know the State Chamber was a big proponent of that as well.
Too early to tell.
Yeah.
I think that there's, to your point, there's a lot of efforts out there, especially as it relates to opioid abuse. And I think, over time, it'll be interesting to see follow-up reports on this because when you have the work being done by, Indiana's drug czar, Jim McClellan, and what the governor's, focus has been in terms of treatment, once that starts to catch up a little bit to where we're starting to see some results on treatment and the impact, and really the simple aspect of it is, trying to take care of the prescription drugs that are left behind in the medicine cabinet and getting rid of those. I think you'll start seeing more of it, but right now we're seeing snapshots of just how bad the crisis is in this moment, which is fair to look at, but I think as months pass on, hopefully we'll see where that's beginning to turn and we're making progress.
Also, want to make note, the world of journalism and really the city of Indianapolis, the state lost a real good guy this week. Matt Tully, columnist for the Indianapolis Star, passed away at the age of 49 from cancer. A real big loss for the community.
A huge loss for the community. Whether you agreed with Matt or not, you respected him and he did a fabulous job.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would just add to that, from a journalist perspective, he was always very fair. He was thorough. And he always wanted to get to the crux of the issue. He wasn't afraid to ask a tough question, which is what you're supposed to do. And he was he was a good guy.
Inspiring, I think, for everybody at that. If you've seen how that story has developed over this last week, inspiring for everybody to have that much of an impact and to have the kind of words from some of his colleagues here. It's really a great lesson. I feel sorry for his wife and his son. He left us too early.
Yeah, well said. Robert Herzog, Roger Harvey, and Ann Hathaway, thank you both. Thank you all three for being with us.
That wraps up this week's Inside Indiana Business Television podcast. Remember, you can find all of this week's TV segments, as well as the top business news from throughout the state at InsideIndianaBusiness.com. While you're there, you can also subscribe to our platform of free e-newsletters. This is Andy Ober for Inside Indiana Business.